A Plymouth police officer and her husband are facing sexual assault charges, accused of abusing a child in their care.
For 7 years, a teenager lived in a house that was supposed to protect him. But behind closed doors, the people raising him were hiding a secret so disturbing that even the police say they were deeply disturbed when they found out. And the worst part? One of them was a police officer. Back in 2018, a teenage boy was taken in by a couple who promised to give him a better life. They didn't just help him, they became his legal guardians. To the outside world, everything looked normal. A stable home, a fresh start, a second chance. But what no one could see was what was happening behind those walls. According to investigators, that home quickly became something else entirely. The teen claims that shortly after moving in, the couple began to cross boundaries. At first, subtle, confusing, but over time, it escalated into something much darker. Prosecutors say the abuse didn't happen once. It didn't happen twice. It allegedly continued for nearly 7 years. 7 years of silence, 7 years of fear. And what makes this even more disturbing is that one of the accused was a police officer, someone sworn to protect others. In court documents, prosecutors described incidents in graphic detail, moments where the victim claims he was forced, controlled, and unable to escape. According to the report, the abuse was consistent, calculated, and hidden from everyone around them. Then, last month, everything changed. The now 21-year-old finally moved out. But even after leaving, he says the fear didn't stop. He told investigators, "They're looking for me, and I'm scared for my safety." But the story doesn't end there. In court, the defense pushed back hard. They claim the victim was in contact with the couple the entire time. They say the allegations are false, and they even point to past accusations, suggesting a pattern. Now, the case has become a battle of two completely different realities. As the case unfolds, supporters of the alleged victim are already speaking out, standing outside the court, saying, "We stand by him. Justice will prevail." Meanwhile, the police department says they are appalled and deeply disturbed. A police officer, a trusted home, a story hidden for years. And now, a case that could expose something far bigger than anyone expected. The only question is, what really happened inside that house?
Do you want to be heard on bail?
Correct, Your Honor. The Commonwealth's not moving for dangerousness. I would like to be heard on cash bail along with conditions of release.
Okay. And are you aware of the requests of the Commonwealth? Okay.
I'm not specifically aware of the conditions, but I could probably gauge what the request is going to be.
Okay. All right. So not guilty pleas are entered on behalf of both defendants at this time, and I will hear you, Commonwealth, in your request for bail.
Yes, Your Honor. So the Commonwealth's request is the same for both defendants. The Commonwealth is requesting $250,000 cash bail, along with the following conditions: that the defendants be ordered to stay away and have no contact with the alleged victim in this case, that they be ordered to stay away from children under the age of 18, that they surrender all firearms in their possession, that they remain in Massachusetts for the pendency of this case, and that they surrender passports to the court if they do have them. Allegations before the court essentially date back to 2018. The alleged victim in this case in 2018 became a foster child of the two defendants before you, and just for clarity's sake, so there's no confusion, I intend to refer to the defendants by their first name so the court's aware who I'm talking about when I discuss which conduct. The allegations are that the alleged victim in this case moved in with the defendants back in 2018. At the time, the alleged victim was 14 years old. Fast forward to between May and June of 2019, when the alleged victim is still 14 years old, that's where the first allegation of sexual assault comes. This is against Daniel. The alleged victim in this case alleges that on that occasion, Daniel brought the alleged victim into the master bedroom at his home, that he then forced his into the alleged victim's mouth, that he forced the alleged victim to put his into Daniel's mouth, that he touched the alleged victim's he forced the alleged victim to touch his. The alleged victim then discloses that this continues almost weekly for the next couple of years. Fast forward now to the fall of 2019. So at this point, the alleged victim would be 15 years old. It's alleged that on one occasion in the fall of 2019, specifically September after the defendants had been married, that Daniel was again sexually abusing the alleged victim in the bedroom when Samantha walked into the bedroom. It's disclosed that at this point, Samantha leaves the room and doesn't come back for the rest of the day. In October of 2019, Daniel summons the alleged victim to the bedroom. When the alleged victim walks into the bedroom, he sees Daniel having with Samantha. Daniel then removes the alleged victim's pants and instructs Samantha to perform on the alleged victim, which Samantha denies at that time. Fast forward to a week after that, so we're still in the fall of 2019 and the alleged victim is still 15 years old. There's another incident where Daniel, again, is sexually assaulting the alleged victim by forcing his into the alleged victim's mouth and forcing the alleged victim's into his mouth. Samantha walks into the room. At first, it's alleged that she goes into the bathroom and Daniel follows. They then come out of the bathroom and Samantha says, "I don't want to take his virginity." Daniel replies, "He's already lost his virginity." Samantha then is only wearing a bra. She lays down on the bed. Daniel then instructs the alleged victim to insert his into her. He does. While this is happening, when the alleged victim slows down, Daniel comes up behind the alleged victim and pushes him to force him to keep going on the intercourse. This happens numerous times through 2019 and carrying over into 2020. Most of the allegations take place in the home. There is an allegation that happened outside the home. This was an indecent assault and battery where it's alleged that Daniel touched the alleged victim's while in a work truck in the county. This continues on with the three of them, with the alleged victim being forced to partake in these sexual encounters with Samantha and Daniel. And then it changes a little bit in about February of 2020. In February of 2020, there's an occasion where the alleged victim is laying on the couch with Samantha. Samantha gets up off the couch. She removes her clothes. She instructs the alleged victim to remove his clothes and then forces him to have with her at that point in time. Up until that point in time, the disclosure is that Daniel and Samantha and the alleged victim would only interact as a group of three, but from this point in February 2020, it now changed to where Samantha was performing these assaults on her own without Daniel being present. The allegations, Your Honor, that these sexual assaults in essentially these same details proceed until 2025. The Commonwealth's request is due to the serious nature of these allegations and the potential flight risks that these defendants pose specifically. With the charges that the defendants are facing, obviously there are Superior Court only charges on here. They've now been charged, so their standing in the community has changed. They've formally been charged, and if they are eventually convicted of these charges, they're facing a significant mandatory minimum of 15 years, specifically on the aggravated rape through a joint venture theory. That's a significant mandatory minimum that they face, and the Commonwealth would argue that that changes their situation where they do become a flight risk given the allegations before the court. I will note for the court, they do not have criminal records. This is the first entry onto their criminal records. So the Commonwealth's request for bail, along with conditions, is based largely, in fact, is based on the allegations before the court to ensure that they continue to answer on these charges and to also protect the safety of the alleged victim in this case. So for those reasons, I would request $250,000 cash bail, a stay away no contact of the alleged victim, stay away from children under the age of 18, surrender all firearms, remain in Massachusetts, and surrender a passport. Also, Your Honor, the Commonwealth did file a motion to impound in regards to both defendants, and I do have motions for protective orders if I may just approach and file this with the court.
Now, the judge asked for a little bit more clarification on one of the charges that Ferdinand faces. It's assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Take a look.
Can you just give me a sentence or two about the assault and battery with a dangerous weapon with respect to?
Yes, Your Honor. So there were occasions where Daniel would request that the alleged victim perform sexual acts on him, and the alleged victim would refuse. Specifically, there's an occasion in the summer of 2019 when they're in the kitchen of the home. Daniel requests a sex act. The alleged victim says no. Daniel then punches the alleged victim in the face. The victim falls to the ground, hits his head on the ground. That would be the basis of the assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. He then reaches into the alleged victim's pants and squeezes his. There were other occasions where he would demand that the alleged victim perform sex acts on him when he would say no, and he would either throw glasses at him or he would hit him physically.
On behalf of Samantha Pelrine, I am requesting that the court release her on her personal recognizance with the assented to condition that she have no contact, directly or indirectly, excepting through counsel, with any of the named witnesses or the named alleged victim. The Commonwealth has just told you that their standing in the community has now changed. Well, that is legally incorrect. Pursuant to our Declaration of Rights in Section 76, there is a presumption of personal recognizance. As you know, the bail statute has 28 criteria laid out for you to assess and determine what is the amount sufficient but not greater than necessary that will ensure these two individuals, specifically my client, comes to the court. Certainly the allegations, the mere allegations, are serious. Certainly the potential penalty is significant. But most of the criteria is designed answering the question and giving the court information about ties to the community and good evidence that the person will not flee the prosecution. With that in mind, Ms. Pelrine is 31 years old. She lives at the property right here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. She was born in South Shore Hospital in Weymouth, Massachusetts, but she was raised and spent her entire life here in Plymouth. She was educated, went to Plymouth South High School where she graduated, then went on and earned a bachelor degree from Salem State with a degree in criminal justice. After that, she worked at the Greater Plymouth Health and Families Service Center, there under the umbrella of the Kennedy Donovan Center. She was a family support advocate. She was gainfully employed. She was a revered employee, helped many families along the way. After that, she pursued her lifelong dream, and she was sworn into the Plymouth Police Department in 2022. She has worked there with distinction since 2022. My client doesn't have any entries on her carry. She doesn't have so much as a speeding ticket. I think the timeline is a little bit important for you to make your determination. First of all, this adult was never a foster child. He's now 21 years old. In June of 2028, there was no place else for him to go.
Sorry, counsel, I think you said 2028.
Excuse me, 2018. There was no place else for him to go. There was allegations made against his biological parents. There was an aunt that was doing the best but didn't have the faculties or facilities to take care of him. He certainly came to the home with some documented problems. He was on medication and he had several diagnoses. They right away, after being asked to take him in, entered into a guardianship about a month later. The timeline and what's alleged against him takes place over the course of 2019, 2020, 2021. I will tell you, at his urging, when he was an adult, at 18 years old, he urged them to legally and formally adopt him. At first, it was rebuffed because his biological father would not sign off on it, but he persisted, and when he was 18, they adopted him, and we have documentation, we have pictures of the celebration. This is after they allegedly had been physically assaulting him 3 to 4 times a week. I will tell you what's also important as it relates to the timeline. The government's assertion that they are a flight risk is belied by the actual history of the case. On March 17, 2026, now these are allegations that are 6, 7, years old. The allegations don't come to light till March 17, 2026. That's when he applies for a restraining order. When he applied for a restraining order, my client, Samantha Pelrine, was notified by her department and through other sources that she was now under investigation. I reached out, talked to Trooper Dunn. I knew the nature of the allegations against her. She has had 10 days to assemble resources and funds and whatever other means she has to flee. She has not done that. She has remained at the family home where they live. She is at all times been available, and her whereabouts have been known to the Commonwealth and to the state police. She has strong ties to the community. In that home, they have a significant property. They have a hobby farm. They have animals. The co-defendant has a 10-year-old daughter. They have a successful business with employees. All of their ties are right here to Plymouth County. They don't have the desire or the intent to go anyplace else, and the best evidence of that is them remaining here and facing these allegations. They were taken into custody this morning without any prior notice to counsel. We were in the middle of preparing for a restraining order hearing that's on for tomorrow. It's a little bit interesting in the restraining order hearing because the alleged victim went under oath and swore to certain things in front of Judge McDonough, and one of the things he swore to was that he felt that that my client posed a threat to his safety, posed a threat of imminent harm to his well-being. And he had told the judge that he moved out in either early February or late January of 2026. I think the timeline's really a distinction without the difference. But again, what he told her is that he was afraid for his safety, and he left the court with the implication that he had not had any contact with them, because he said specifically that he moved out early February, and I've heard that they are looking for me. That's what he said under oath to get the restraining order. Well, it just so happens that on February 4th, after he moved out, he went to their home. He apologized for his conduct. He had engaged in a physical assault of Mr. Ferrand. Told him he was going to the Coast Guard. He asked to continue working at the company until April of 2026, during the same time where he's allegedly, purportedly afraid for his safety. He asked if he could go on a family trip with them to Jamaica. He asked them about a skiing trip to Sunday River. He asked if he could still come over for Sunday dinners. February 18th, he broke into the house with a ladder through a window. We have a witness verifying that he pulled up at the house to check on it because they were away and they saw his vehicle, the alleged victim's vehicle, in the driveway. February 27th, he's telling the court he's afraid for his safety. We have verification he asked for his job back and actually went back to work. March 2026, we have video of him showing up at the house in a pickup truck, a work truck that his father had given to him to sell. And the video shows them engaged in a cordial conversation talking about the fact that they got the truck running and are going to be able to resell it. This is only 18 or 19 days prior to when he applied for the restraining order, the same operative period of time when he said he was terrified of these two. March 7th, 2026, there's an encounter at a gas station with him and his father. He's with another female, a female named. They all engage in a cordial conversation. March 9th, 8 days before he goes under oath and is talking about Samantha Pelrine, there's a text exchange where he calls him and she texts back, "I missed your call, are you all right?" This so-called alleged victim said, "Yeah, just tired, need someone to talk to stay awake, driving, need someone to text." It's 8 days. Under oath, he said he was terrified then. March 11th, he actually sold the truck that had been gifted to him from his father for $3,100. March 12th, 5 days before he comes in under oath, he sends a text to Samantha with a picture of food he had cooked up. And she said, "Did you make that?" "Yeah, I did. I'm a chef." That's the type of conversation he's engaging in with her 5 days before coming in here and making these salacious allegations about when he was 14 or 15. March 13th, again, verification. He asked to remain on at pest control. March 13th, 4 days before that. What else do we have? Well, because of allegations made against this guy, not them, DCF had to come to the house on prior occasions. There was an allegation that he had engaged in inappropriate behavior with his stepsister. DCF came, and it's not that they were able to substantiate the allegations against him, but fully engaged in a vetting of the home, the suitability of the home, and you know from your experience, the fundamental questions are asked. Do you feel safe in the home? Has anyone abused you, either physically or sexually? And we can only assume that those were all checked negative because DCF unsubstantiated the complaints against him, but filed no further action against these two. So with DCF investigating this house on at least 2 prior occasions, there was no evidence of wrongdoing. We also know that there was a history with this young man. He was a problem, and we can document it. He had accused someone falsely of sexually inappropriate behavior when he was in high school, when he later came clean and admitted it was a sexual encounter he had with a teammate on his basketball team. Fast forward to December 2025 into January 2026. He's dating this young woman that's mentioned in the police report, and that's really the genesis of where this started. He wanted to do things his own way. He continued against the parents' wishes to have her stay over. They were concerned about a young child being in the house, him having her stay overnight. Continued to break the rules. We have him on 4:45 in the morning in late November, where he has told Judge McDonough that Mr. Foran assaulted him, and he described the incident. We have him jumping on Mr. Foran, putting him in a headlock, trying to choke him out where he's clearly the first aggressor. The real issue came to a head. We have a letter, and this is the person that's scared. We have a letter from his girlfriend where she accuses this so-called victim of raping her, and we have that letter. So this is a case that has viable defenses, but your fundamental question, and it's not a question of public safety, they didn't move pursuant to 58A. Brannigan doesn't allow you to consider public safety. The fundamental question is, are they going to do the right thing and appear? And the presumption is yes. And the evidence you have before you should point towards yes.
Now, Krowski also addressed Palreen's career as a police officer, a position that requires the trust of the public.
Let me comment about this, about the fact that my client's a police officer. I don't come to you and say that a police officer should be treated any more favorably than any other civilian counterpart, but they certainly shouldn't be treated disproportionately unfavorably. I have clients all over the state charged with rape, and not one of them is held on anything close to this amount of bail. And there is something to be said that she's a police officer, because you know her ties to the community are strong, and she's been vetted. Her background's been vetted. Her personal history's been vetted. Her life in high school and in college, and any issues of discipline in high school and college have been successfully vetted. I'm asking you for $5,000 because I have no doubt, nor should you, that she will appear to face these charges, Judge.
Their son has been employed for my client, for Dan, for a few years. He wanted to go out on his own and see if he can, sort of start something, a business, or be successful, not tied to his father's business. So he applied for a job. It was with a ferry, and then for some reason there was some misunderstanding, and the alleged victim missed the meeting. So he texts Dan and asks for his job back. And like any supportive father, it's like, would you like to meet you want to meet at Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks? You pick. Now, if somebody who has been physically and sexually abusing somebody for years, is that the language you would use? You pick? He offers his son his job back. And there is not only is it just a cordial conversation, it is a conversation coming from love, from a father saying, I support you and I understand why you're looking for employment outside of the family business, but of course you're welcome back. I support you in your endeavors, and I want you to be successful. That is the true father. That is the true relationship. I also want to talk about some of these dates leading up to when he appears here on 3/17, saying how terrified he is. And I will get to obviously some of where my client, where he's from and his ties to the community. However, on the day that he came here to apply for the restraining order on 3/17, he had just called His mother called Sam. She didn't pick up, but he had reached out to her. I was baffled when I read the affidavit for the restraining order, and I got a copy of it and I listened to it, and then I'm looking at the information that my client is providing me. We have videos of him. They're at the house. They are working. They are having cordial, what we might consider just mundane conversations about work. My client has, for many years, had a lot of security cameras. He has very expensive equipment that is kept at the home. You can see them. Your Honor, if you would like, I'm happy to approach. I have videos of their son driving into the property with Dan following his truck. It's very mundane conversations. I have video of my client being attacked by him. So interestingly, when he's 21 years old, he has a girlfriend who doesn't live close by. And the parents are like, we support you in this relationship, but we don't know her and she cannot sleep here. So what does he do? He keeps trying to sneak her into the house. When that's not working, he's with other people. They're waking up. There are people they don't know in the home. So this couple are sleeping in the trucks. They're putting tents up, and they have told them, you can, of course, you can date her. She's welcome in, or she cannot sleep here. So at one night, when they discover that they are there, he tells him, like, these are the rules. Like, you know the rules. You broke the rules. I want you out. If you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. And what does he do? You can see it on the camera. He brutally attacks my client. And as a caring, loving father should do, he just, puts him to the desk, trying to stop him, telling him, stop, stop, stop. Is somebody who is abusing their son the way that he is alleging, do you say, I'm going to call the police? This troubled young man had not been following the house rules. And then it finally was enough. You need to find somewhere else to live. So this is what he does. And then he fabricates these allegations for attention with the biological family. Only he knows the motivation. However, when he came to court, he was disingenuous. He was manipulative. He does not tell the judge, hey, also, I just called Sam today. I've been talking to them. I've been employed by him this entire time. I am at the house regularly. They are texting like, hey, we set aside, we have a text string. We set aside some shelves so that you can store some of your boxes because there was some ice water damage. So they're going to be renovating that part of the house. So here's where you can keep some of your things. These are just conversations that you would expect of any, between an adult child and loving parents. He didn't have to live there, Your Honor. In 2025, I believe he was making about $80,000. 2024, making over $50,000. So this is not a vulnerable person who has no place to go and is forced to live at this house. This is where he chose to live every day.
Now, the judge herself